Hi folks, hope everybody's okay. I'm gonna just want to deal with the one question that atheists cannot answer, the one question that atheists do not want to answer, the one question that atheists try to avoid, that the only person who has ever mentioned this has been one himself. Do you want to know what that question is? This is the question that atheists do not like to answer. They hate to answer this question, and that is this: was Jesus Jewish? Was Jesus Jewish? The only person who I know who's mentioned Jesus is Jewish is Sam Harris, and that's because he's Jewish. But it's important to note that the atheists will not talk about Jesus' Jewishness. They hardly, if ever, mention that he was Jewish. There's a very important reason for that. Because most atheists, not all, but the vast majority of atheists, believe Jesus is not a real historical figure, that he's a pagan kind of deity. You know, there are these so-called dying and rising gods in Greece and Egypt, and the Christians got together and they invented some dying and rising god. I mean, they say, like, well, the Apostle Paul had this vision of worshipping Jesus as God, and it spread later on in the other Gospels, but they put a bit more history in it as time went on and all the rest of it. And if you say that Jesus is Jewish, all those theories just fall to the ground, because then what that means is you've got to start looking at the Gospels in first century Jewish context, and that's what happened to modern scholarship. You see, we had Rudolf Bultmann, an existentialist theologian who was definitely not a Christian, more of a skeptic, who said we need to demythologize the New Testament, take away the supernatural out of it, get back to some kind of basic understanding of what the texts were all about. But he said anything Jewish in the Gospels or the New Testament is suspect. We've got a more authentic material is Greek. Anything Greekish in the Gospels or anywhere, that's authentic. And he ruled the roost for till about 1960, his ideas, with form criticism. But in the 1920s, a movement began by some Jewish scholars who began to write a life of Jesus from a Jewish perspective, and this scholarship didn't take full root in the academic world until after 1960, after the height of Rudolf Bultmann. And more scholars began to jump on the bandwagon of trying to look at the life of Jesus from a Jewish context. So there were people like E.P. Sanders and others who started to do this, and lo and behold, critical scholarship then began to realize actually there's more factual information about the life of Jesus than we actually realized. What that meant was Rudolf Bultmann's ideas kind of went, kind of just disappeared. People just realized that it was just wrong in its basic premises. So now modern scholarship in the academic world realizes now that if you're going to do any serious attempt at the life of Christ, it's got to be from a Jewish perspective. And that's why the atheists don't like to answer the question, is Jesus Jewish? Because if he is Jewish, it means you've got to start studying the Gospels in its Jewish context, which then means a lot of these silly theories that these modern atheist scholars are coming up with, who are fringe scholars, fall by the wayside. So the question is, atheist, what do you think about Jesus? Was he Jewish or not? That's the question that you don't like to answer. Thank you for listening. Please read my paper that the atheists won't deal with, and I hope you enjoy it. Take care now.